and yeah, welcome back. I wanted to show you, this week I wanted to show you the finished fairy house. Ouch. That's what it looks like. Don't know if you can really see it. I've just sort of decided that I was finished with it. It was done. It was over. But yeah, it was really good fun. It just took a while. I mean, I think I've been working on this for like 3 weeks. But yeah, I've got fairy lights. I've got fairy lights here as well. And yeah, I think I mentioned that last week. You can just put them in here and then you can turn it on as well, and it kind of looks cool. So that's that, and yeah, there's a blog post about this on our website. And then another project I want to talk about is this one here. This is a little fairy lantern, and you can also make a dinosaur lantern or a dragon lantern. So this was really good fun to make. It was really good fun as well, and yeah, I'm going to write a wee blog post about it as well, just in case you're looking for something to do during our lockdown. And yeah, so let's see what Belle has been up to. Oh yes, I almost forgot. I wanted to mention this here as well. So this here is a wee recipe book that I bought many years ago in a antique store, I think somewhere in Dublin or so, and I really like cookbooks or recipe books, and this one is from 1949, and I always think it's really interesting because it tells you so much about social history and what people liked and what was popular. But yesterday I was flicking through this and I found this one recipe, water biscuits. And I don't know, maybe you know water biscuits, I don't. You just need flour, butter, water, and a teaspoonful salt. And it just doesn't sound quite right. But yeah, I thought I'd just mention that because it's a bit strange. But yeah, if you have an old cookbook, hold on to it. Don't throw it away. It's really interesting and a wonderful piece of social history as well. And this kind of relates to Belle's letter. So let's see what she has been up to. Ooh, beautiful golden letter. There you go. Dear keepers of the magical world of books, how are you, my devoted wee bookworms? Have you read many delightful books this week? Our magical reading powers fairy dust is stronger than ever. The Fairy Kingdom's headquarters can sense countless delightful story times across the country. Madeline has also received a lovely book delivery this week. It was such a joy to take the books out of their box. Oh, what a reader-tastic stories books can tell. What reader-tastic stories books can tell. Woo. Without books, the world would be a truly boring place right now. It's very true. Last week I went for a wee swim with my little brother Finn, and then the mermaids guided us to a glistening secret at the bottom of Mermaid Lake. Can you remember that we discovered a treasure chest? We took the treasure chest back to the bookshop to investigate what's inside. Mummy and Daddy also joined us. First we had to get the lock off. Daddy was a great help when he used the Operamos spell. The spell was so strong, the lock simply flew off the treasure chest like a bee from its beehive. We expected to see jewelry and gleaming gold coins. What else could be in a pirate's treasure chest? But, my dear listeners, there was no treasure in the chest, just an old and ugly book. Most books have such a lovely smell, don't you think? To me, old books smell especially lovely, just exactly like popping candy that was dunked in honey and covered in a little bit of dust and dried rose petals. But this book smelled like rotten seaweed, storms and sea monsters. I can't emphasize enough how much I dislike sea monsters. What kind of book is it? Mommy wondered. She was using her happy voice now, as she was pleased that nothing bad had been hiding in the treasure chest. Let's make the book talk, Finn suggested. From experience, I had a trick up my sleeve. I sprinkled a little bit of fairy lemonade on the cover. Yes, That's exactly what I did to the most beautiful book in the world. And ta-da! The smelly book woke up from its very long slumber. It yawned. Gosh, the smell was disgusting. And then it blinked at us. It took quite a while for the book to realize that it wasn't dreaming. Is this the real world? It asked us. The book slowly got up, and a whole lot of water came out of its interior. The bookshop was nearly flooded by seawater. The book apologized profusely for the mess it caused, and it tried to soak up the water with its soggy pages. Do you know what it told us? That it is a handwritten recipe book, and it had been asleep for 500 years, much longer than Sleeping Beauty. Oh, is that the sun that is shining onto my pages? The recipe book pointed at the lamp that was hanging from the kitchen ceiling. That's called a light bulb, and it's not a real sun, I had to explain. Daddy had a great idea and invited the recipe book into our kitchen. Of course, it had never seen a modern fairy kitchen before. It couldn't believe that you don't need fire to make a lovely loaf of bread. It was also very much fascinated by our mixer tap. Who would have thought? 2 temperatures, 1 tap, it said. When Fairy Magdalena Ronderwick wrote my recipes, we didn't even have electricity, the recipe book explained. Mummy suggested that we could prepare one of its recipes for dinner. We need a big pot and a roaring fire, the recipe book said enthusiastically. We had some convincing to do to make the recipe book accept that the cooker was the perfect place to prepare a stew. Finn picked a recipe from the old book that sounded very interesting. It was called Midnight Moon. Quickly, Daddy and I picked some vegetables from the garden. We were extremely hungry. Everyone was ready for some cooking action when Mummy read the first line of the recipe. Mix 2 potatoes with snail slime, a raven feather, 2 rainbow flowers, and a moonbeam. Mummy closed the book. The recipe book stared at our disappointed faces. You are not an ordinary recipe book, are you? Mummy asked. The recipe book did some thinking before it cried out, Oh yes! Fairy Magdalena Ronderwick was not only a great fairy, but also a great healer. I'm just beginning to remember my past. We flicked through the recipe book until we reached a recipe for a pirate repellent. The book laughed. Oh, this is the best pirate repellent in the fairy kingdom, trust me. The pirates of Mermaid Lake are rather nasty fellows, but they had gone on an expedition up north, and thus they have not been around much recently. They captured me and put me into this stinky old treasure chest so many years ago, the recipe book said. Then it yawned at us. We all felt sorry for the tired cookbook, and we gave it a space on our kitchen cupboard, right beside the great fairy cook. Perhaps one day we will need a recipe for pirate repellent. Who knows? Daddy said. Since then the old recipe book has been sleeping, but at least it is no longer locked up in a treasure chest. Let me know if you ever need some pirate repellent. I gladly make some for you. That's it for today, my dear wee bookworms. As always, I have enclosed my very special reading power fairy dust and a tale by Beatrix Potter. Have a bookatastic week. Your bookshop custodian, Belle. Kiss, kiss. Please go. And of course our fairy dust. I've got it here. Oops. There it is. So, are you ready? 1, 2. Please go. Yep. Cover the entire floor again. And let's see what tale we are going to read. Oh, the tale of Johnny Town Mouse. Oh yeah, just before I start to read this little tale, we might actually have some special guests next week. I'm not entirely sure yet, but I think, yeah, there are some special people, special creatures joining us next week, so we'll see. But let's read The Tale of Johnny Town Mouse by Beatrix Potter. Johnny Town Mouse was born in a cupboard. Timmy Willie was born in a garden. Timmy Willie was a little country mouse who went to town by mistake in a hamper. The gardener sent vegetables to town once a week by carrier. He packed them in a big hamper. The gardener left the hamper by the garden gate so that the carrier could pick it up when he passed. Timmy Willie crept in through a hole in the wickerwork, and after eating some peas, Timmy Willie fell fast asleep. He awoke in a fright while the hamper was being lifted into the carrier's cart. Then there was a jolting and a clattering of horse feet. Other packages were thrown in for miles and miles. Jolt, jolt, jolt. And whoop! And Timmy really trembled amongst the jumbled up vegetables. At last the cart stopped at a house where the hamper was taken out, carried in, and set down. The cook gave the carrier 6 pence. The back door banged and the cart rumbled away. But there was no quiet. There seemed to be hundreds of carts passing. Dogs barked, boys whistled in the street, the cook laughed, the parlour maid ran up and down stairs, and the canary sang like a steam engine. Timmy Willie, who had lived all his life in a garden, was almost frightened to death. Presently, the cook opened the hamper and began to unpack the vegetables. Out sprang terrified Timmy Willie. Up jumped the cook on a chair, exclaiming, "A mouse! A mouse! Call a cat! Fetch me the poker, Sarah!" Timmy Willie did not wait for Sarah with the poker. He rushed along the skirting board till he came to a little hole, and in he popped. He dropped half a foot and crashed into the middle of a mouse dinner party, breaking 3 glasses. "Who in the world is this?" inquired Johnny Town Mouse. But after the first exclamation of surprise, he instantly recovered his manners. With the utmost politeness, he introduced Timmy Willie to 9 other mice, all with long tails and wide neckties. Timmy Willie's own tail was insignificant. Johnny Town Mouse and his friends noticed it, but they were too well bred to make personal remarks. Only one of them asked Timmy Willie if he had ever been in a trap. The dinner was of 8 courses, not much of anything, but truly elegant. All the dishes were unknown to Timmy Willie, who would have been a little afraid of tasting them, only he was very hungry and very anxious to behave with company manners. The continual noise upstairs made him so nervous that he dropped a plate. "Never mind, they don't belong to us," said Johnny. "Why don't those youngsters come back with the dessert?" It should be explained that 2 young mice who were waiting on the others went skirmishing upstairs to the kitchen between courses. Several times they had come tumbling in, squeaking and laughing. Timmy Willie learned with horror that they were being chased by the cat. His appetite failed, he felt faint. "Try some jelly?" said Johnny Town Mouse. "No? Would you rather go to bed? I will show you a most comfortable sofa pillow." The sofa pillow had a hole in it. Johnny Town Mouse quite honestly recommended it as the best bed kept exclusively for visitors, but the sofa smelled of cat. Timmy Willie preferred to spend a miserable night under the fender. It was just the same next day. An excellent breakfast was provided for mice accustomed to eat bacon, but Timmy Willie had been reared on roots and salad. Johnny Town Mouse and his friends racketed about under the floors and came boldly out all over the house in the evening. One particularly loud crash had been caused by Sarah tumbling downstairs with the tea tray. There were crumbs and sugar and smears of jam to be collected, in spite of the cat. Timmy Willie longed to be at home in his peaceful nest in a sunny bank. The food disagreed with him. The noise prevented him from sleeping. In a few days he grew so thin that Johnny Town Mouse noticed it and questioned him. He listened to Timmy Willie's story and inquired about the garden. "It sounds rather a dull place. What do you do when it rains?" "When it rains, I sit in my little sunny burrow and shell corn and seeds for my autumn store. I peep out at the throstles and blackbirds on the lawn and my friend Cock Robin. And when the sun comes out again, you should see my garden and the flowers, roses and pinks and pansies, no noise except the birds and bees and the lambs in the meadows." There goes the cat again, exclaimed Johnny Town Mouse. When they had taken refuge in the coal cellar, he resumed the conversation. I confess I am a little disappointed. We have endeavoured to entertain you, Timothy William. Oh, yes, you have been most kind, but I do feel so ill, said Timmy Willie. It may be that your teeth and your digestion are unaccustomed to our food. Perhaps it might be wiser for you to return in the hamper. Oh, cried Timmy Willie. Why, of course, for the matter of that, we could have sent you back last week, said Johnny rather huffily. Did you not know that the hamper goes back empty on Saturdays? So Timmy Willie said goodbye to his new friends and hid in the hamper with a crumb of cake and a withered cabbage leaf, and after much jolting he was set down safely in his own garden. Sometimes on Saturdays he went to look at the hamper lying by the gate, but he knew better than to get in again, and nobody got out, though Johnny Town Mouse had promised a visit. The winter passed, the sun came out again. Timmy Willie sat by his burrow, warming his little fur coat and sniffing the smell of violets and spring grass. He had nearly forgotten his visit to town, when up the sandy path, all spick and span, with a brown leather bag, came Johnny Town Mouse. Timmy Willie received him with open arms. You have come at the best of all the year. We will have herb pudding and sit in the sun. It is a little damp, said Johnny Town Mouse, who was carrying his tail under his arm out of the mud. What is that fearful noise? He started violently. That? Said Timmy Willie. That is only a cow. I will beg a little milk. They are quite harmless, unless they happen to lie down upon you. How are all our friends? Johnny's account was rather middling. He explained why he was paying his visit so early in the season. The family had gone to the seaside for Easter. The cook was doing spring cleaning on board wages, with particular instructions to clear out the mice. There were 4 kittens, and the cat had killed a canary. Oh dear. They say we did it, but I know better, said Johnny Town Mouse. Whatever is that fearful racket? That is only the lawnmower. I will fetch some of the grass clippings presently to make your bed. I am sure you had better settle in the country, Johnny. We shall see by Tuesday week. The hamper is stopped while they are at the seaside. I am sure you will never want to live in town again, said Timmy Willie. But he did. He went back in the very next hamper of vegetables. He said it was too quiet. One place suits one person, another place suits another person. For my part, I prefer to live in the country, like Timmy Willie. The end. There you go. That was the tale of Johnny Town Mouse. So, thank you very much for listening, and I hope to see you next week. And Belle is here somewhere as well. We both say goodbye. See you next week.